Ken and Paul each ordered a sandwich at a restaurant. The price of Ken's sandwich was X dollars, and the price of Paul's sandwich was $1 more than the price of Ken's sandwich. If Ken and Paul split the cost of the sandwiches evenly, and each paid a 20% tip, which of the following expressions represents the amount in dollars each of them paid? Alright, so a word problem. We recognize this word problem because it's long, it's tedious, it's unnecessary, but we know how to deal with this, right? I hope so. So how we actually approach this is breaking it down sentence by sentence, and each sentence we try to see if there's a relationship, if there's an equation, if there's some variables that we can represent. Okay, so the first sentence, Ken and Paul each ordered a sandwich at a restaurant. Okay, great, we know that. The price of Ken's sandwich was X dollars, so Ken's sandwich was X dollars, and the price of Paul's sandwich was $1 more than the price of Ken's sandwich. $1 more than the price of Ken's sandwich. You see what I'm doing here? I'm reading this, and as I'm reading this, I'm pausing and writing down the variable that represents that piece of information, right? I'm just basically summarizing this whole paragraph into variable and equation form, so then I can find my answer. And so what do I have here? I have X, which represents the price of the sandwich of Paul, and X plus 1 is the what am I saying? Yeah, X is Ken's sandwich, and X plus 1 is Paul's sandwich price. Cool. Now let's go on to the next sentence. If Ken and Paul split the cost of the sandwiches evenly, and each paid 20% tip, which of the following expressions represents the amount in dollars each of them paid? So let's see how we can do the evenly part. So if they split the total cost evenly, well, what's the total cost? The total cost is the price of Ken's sandwich plus the price of Paul's sandwich, which is X plus 1. Okay? And they divided it evenly between them. Well, there's only 2, so you can only divide it by 2. So what this represents is the price that each person paid before the tip. But since each one was so generous to pay the tip, even though they never got great service, you would want to take this whole thing, which represents the amount each one paid, and multiply it by a tip. And they say that the tip is 20%. So how do you represent 20%? Well, it's an increase, right? They're paying more, so you need to add 20% to 1. Again, if you multiply something by 1, that means you're just keeping it the same. If you're multiplying it by less than 1, you're decreasing it. Or if you're multiplying it by more than 1, then you are increasing it. So this is going to be times 1.2, right? That's how we represent an increase of 20% for the tip. Now, we want to simplify this. So we're going to simplify this by making this X plus X is equal to 2X plus 1 over 2 times 1.2. Well, we can split the 2X plus 1 over 2 in a 2X over 2 plus a 1/2, and that whole thing times 1.2. Well, 2X over 2, that's just X plus a half times 1.2. Distribute that, you get 1.2X plus half of 1.2, which is like half of 12, which is 0.6. You could have really, if you ever got stuck between, well, how do I find half of 1.2? It doesn't matter, because if you look at your answer choices, there's only one where 1.2 is in front of the X. So your answer is C.